Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope y'all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So, it's finally here. We are to the RWBY Volume 6 finale. So we are going to review RWBY Volume 6, Chapter 13, Our Way. And it's already hard to believe that we've hit this finale, but there's a lot to say about it. So, sit back, relax, I hope you all enjoy. Now let's go ahead and get into this review. So, we start off with Neo and Cinder, and Neo has flown in with a ship, and you could tell that with her attire, before she changes to what she's wearing now, Neo was wearing a police uniform. You can tell by the little circle pendant on the arm, on her right arm, and it says police. So she stole this ship from the police, in which we did see this kind of ship before, not just from Hazel's group whenever they went back to Salem's castle, but also when Kali came in with the Mr. Police in Volume 5. So Neo snuck into a police station and stole a ship from them, which I like that because that goes back to Neo's characteristics of disguising herself and being able to infiltrate places like she did back in Volume 3 with the Atlas military, for example, and as well as the Vital Festival, and also as a nurse. So Neo has had several occasions where she's been able to do this, so I'm glad that they stuck to her characteristic of being able to create illusions and sneak in and steal whatever like she's been able to do before. So it's great that they're keeping her to her characteristics. And Cinder has her new attire as well, and she states that the ship should get them to Solitas, and that by the time they get there, Neo should materialize herself some snow boots, because Atlas is a frigid place, also being the northern region of Remnant. So, yeah, makes sense. North is colder. So, I get that. And as you can tell, Neo wasn't too fond of that statement. And I'd have to say also, another thing they've done is they're doing a very great job of showing Neo's expressions through her face. In the past, we've seen Neo really show some expressions before, and they've done well with that, and they are continuing to do so yet again. Most of the expressions we've really seen come from Neo, though, have been from RWBY Chibi, as well as Neo showing signs to communicate, putting letters on them, and that's how she talks, basically, because she can't talk. But I think they've done very good here. I think they've done a very well job at showing us her expressions and how she feels about certain things. I think they've really done that well as her body language. So I've really enjoyed them doing that with Neo's character. And so Cinder is about to board the ship that Neo stole, and that's when Neo halts Cinder, basically stopping her from getting on board. And this is because Neo is then showing that she can materialize the ship, and this really shows how much power Neo has gained between Volumes 2 and 3 up to this point of Volume 6. Neo is so powerful now that not only can her own illusions be physical and actually attack, but now she can completely modify what a ship looks like and create the illusion of it being something else so that others will believe that it's this thing. Now, she's been able to create walls and things of that sort, but we've never seen it to this magnitude. This is a much better level, and as Cinder stated, Neo had become stronger, and she had noticed this during their fight, and it's very obvious that Neo has certainly improved since Volume 3. So I really do like that, and as you can tell, when the ship is materializing to look like an Atlas ship, you can see that Cinder is very pleased with this, and I do like that as well. So I think it's really cool that they're showing their teamwork, and it's actually pretty cool for a start. I mean, of course, we haven't seen a whole lot of this because they just started working together again since Volume 3. But I do like seeing the teamwork of the two of them. So when we finally see the ship materialize, it looks exactly like an Atlas ship. Now, this is really cool, and it shows that they are going to be a big part of Volume 7. So I'm very excited to see what they have planned here. And not only that, but just seeing this, as I stated, with Neo's power being better, being stronger than she was before, and seeing how smart that she is as a character, Neo is going to be very deadly, and so is Cinder. They're both going to be very deadly next volume, if written properly, because if they write it well, then they could make these characters a very deadly duo. So I hope they do, and this shows potential and promise between their teamwork, so I really hope that this teamwork goes places. So Cinder then tells Neo that one time somebody asked her if she believed in destiny, and she says, "I still do," which is a nod to Pyrrha, which I like that, though, because we get that nod But at the same time, it shows that things, when it comes down to fate and destiny here, it intertwined to have Cinder and Neo team up and go to Atlas. And things really did kind of work out in that degree, and we'll just have to see where it goes in Volume 7. But it's interesting. And what I have to say before we go on to the next part, I like the new outfits for Cinder and Neo. I was kind of upset that Neo didn't get anything new when she was introduced. I mean, yeah, she got Roman's hat and her clothes were a little torn, but she still looked cool. But I'm glad that they finally gave her something new, and to see Cinder in something new, this fits her character, and I really like what they did here. So, we'll see them again in Volume 7. Moving forward, though, we see Pladzilla, and he's moving closer to Argus. And you hear over the communication comms that everybody's wondering where Cordovan is. They need the mech. They need to stop Pladzilla before Pladzilla enters into Argus. And so she's now blaming Team RWBY and all of them because, well, they did actually take the arm of the mech and kind of destroyed it. So, yeah, there's a problem there. And then Blake and Yang start running in, and here's what I have to say about this. Did anyone notice how it seemed like they got there pretty swiftly, considering that Yang rode her motorcycle all the way to the relay tower, and then had to drive all the way to find where Adam was, as well as Blake when they were fighting. So, yeah, I think that they got there pretty fast. I don't know if anybody else thinks that, but it seemed like they got there very swiftly. So they ask what was going on, and they hear the noise of a giant Grimm. So Weiss goes on to tell them that they destroyed the only thing capable of destroying Pladzilla. So they all get in the ship that they stole and start to fly off, and I will say this, that ship is durable. Considering the attacks that thing has taken, Atlas is good at building their ships. It seems that their technology is top-notch if they have ships that are that reinforced. It's pretty impressive. Now, then you can see that RWBY herself is very upset over this, and, well, they should be, because what did they do? They committed a crime. They stole from the military, the Atlas military of all people they stole from, because Cordovan wouldn't listen to them. To be fair, both sides are to blame, but I put it more on Team RWBY than I do Cordovan, and that's because Cordovan is just doing her job. She was trying to prevent others from getting to Atlas because they closed off the borders, and that was the point. It was to just have everybody else stay out there. So, yeah, can't really blame Cordovan. So, Maria then says that this will be their only chance to escape. So, if they are to do it, they need to do it now while the Grimm are attacking Argus. And while that would be a good plan, the sad thing is it would put many people in danger. So, it's either leave now and not worry about others, or stay and fight. And so that's when Yang, Weiss, and Blake all bring up the fact that they're Huntress and that they should stay there and try to defend the people, that it wouldn't be right if they just left, and that's what a Huntress would do. And that's true. At the same time, they also cause this problem. So, yeah, it, in a sense, is their mess to help clean up, because they really started this issue too. So, yeah, makes sense why they'd stay and fight. So RWBY then decides to have a plan of using Jean and Ren so that Ren's aura could be amplified so that the Grimm could not detect them and that they would close in on the Leviathan. And so that seems like an interesting idea, and it would work because the Grimm wouldn't be able to detect them. So it'd be good for them to be able to get close into range of the Leviathan. But then, at that moment, they hear an Atlas officer on the comms state that none of the fighters should engage the Leviathan, and that the Leviathan is actually within shallow waters, so it is getting closer to Argus. That's when the base activates the barriers to keep any monsters, like the Leviathan for example, out. But the design they used here was pretty bad, because with their rods that project the barriers sticking out with the barriers, if you think about it, Pladzilla was smart, because what does Pladzilla proceed to do? Attack the barrier, because Pladzilla can't walk through it. So Pladzilla uses Flamethrower because it knows the difference between types, and the Flamethrower hits the barrier and smacks into one of the metal rods, and Steel type's weakness is fire, so down goes the first barrier. Now, when it comes to the design of that barrier, that was bad. And it really just seems convenient so that Leviathan can get into Argus, realistically. Could you imagine if other Sea Grimm came by or something like that and just swept up against it and then just destroyed it or damaged it to where the barrier just drops? Yeah, I don't think that's a great placement for the barriers to be projected from. Just saying. But so then RWBY gets on the comms and she states that she needs backup so that they can get in close to the Leviathan. And this is when she plans to use her silver eyes because she states that she can take it out. And so Maria then brings up what she said before about the silver eyes being a trial by fire, because if she is to use this, there's still the potential chance that she could die, and that the only way that she could learn to do this is when she's actually fighting a real Grimm. So RWBY decides that this is the only way, and that this is how they're going to have to do it. So as they try to fly close into the Leviathan, that's when the Leviathan attacks again. Crow tells Maria to pull up, and she does. So then that's when RWBY has another idea on how she can get close to the Leviathan, and it has to do with Weiss, because they're not going to be able to fly the ship in and get up close at this rate, or everybody may die. So that's when RWBY decides to have Weiss use the Queen Lancer, and she flies upon the Queen Lancer to get in front of the Leviathan to try to use her silver eyes and take it out. Not destroy it, but at least freeze it, turn it to stone, just like she did with the Wyvern. So RWBY starts to go to a place in her mind that could trigger her silver eyes, thinking of her friends and her loved ones and how to protect them. And this is where they have the montage of older scenes from volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple from 5. And it's used in that 2D manner that they did at the beginning of volume 5 with showing off Mistral whenever they were in Haven. So it was not bad. It was alright. It really tried to throw in the feels, I guess you could say, from previous volumes of nostalgia, I think was the biggest thing they were trying to throw out there. And that's one thing about this volume they've done, is they've shown a lot of fan service in several different ways, and this is yet another one of those ways. But when RWBY tries to trigger her silver eyes, they don't activate this time, showing that RWBY still has more to learn to how to use the silver eyes. And so because they didn't activate, this puts her life in danger. And with RWBY not knowing what to do at this exact moment, she actually then calls out to Jen to try to aid her by giving her more time so that she could stall it out to be able to activate her silver eyes. Well, this was a good idea. At the same time, Jen herself has a problem with this, because Jen then states that even though you don't seek knowledge, I know what you were doing, and I'm only going to let this pass this one time, but I'm not going to let it happen again. So Jen herself is not going to let it happen again, but at the very same time, she does compliment RWBY by telling her that she thought that this was a clever move to be able to help her activate her silver eyes. So, while at the same time Jen wasn't very happy with this, she thought what RWBY did to try to stall out enough time was actually clever. So, we get a few more sequences of the past volumes. Then, we get the big reveal, which is Summer Rose. And here's what I am going to say. It's about time. I felt that in this volume, they have just mowed over the idea of Summer and just not tried to do anything about it. But they finally did do this. And while Summer appears, you hear the song Indomitable. And I'm going to go into an explanation of Indomitable. And I'm going to look at the lyrics first and then tell you the meaning behind these lyrics. But first off, here's a shout out to Lyren. Thank you for giving me the lyrics to the song they used in this chapter. I really do appreciate it. So here are the lyrics. There's a light that shines, and its power is mine. Though our body's weak and breakable, the spirit is indomitable. Now, this is actually taken from a quote from Monty himself. Now, let me read this quote to you. This is the quote Monty had made back in 2012. I believe that the human spirit is indomitable. If you endeavor to achieve, it will happen given enough resolve. It may not be immediate, and often your greater dreams is something you will not achieve within your own lifetime. The effort you put forth to anything transcends yourself, for there is no futility, even in death. And this was Monty's quote. And it shows you that they really put this into the song. They really thought of Monty here. And this is powerful to me, myself personally. And I think it's a beautiful thing that Jeff Williams put a quote from Monty himself into this song. I think it's a very beautiful thing. And it kind of gets me emotionally a little bit there, I must say. This is a song that I am certainly looking forward to. I really do want to listen to this one a lot. It's, I think, on the level of One Thing for me right now to listen to, and I'm very excited for it. So when the soundtrack comes out, that's going to be another one that I'm very excited for by Jeff Williams. So kudos to you, Jeff Williams and Casey Lee. You both did an excellent job on what we know of the song so far. I really already like it. But we then see that Pladzilla has been turned to stone. And it seems like everybody's rejoicing and everybody's very happy. And everything seems like it's going to be okay because Pladzilla has been taken care of. And now they can go in and take it out, right? Haha, yeah, not so much. So Pladzilla, then shortly after being turned to stone, then breaks free. So it shows you that the level that Pladzilla is on, it's higher than that of the Wyvern. Because the Wyvern, when it was frozen, it's still sitting atop of Beacon Tower. So, yeah, the difference in power between this Grimm and the Wyvern seems to be that this Grimm is stronger than the Wyvern. So, that's pretty interesting to note, seeing that this Grimm is strong enough to just break through the stone casing that it was put into. So, I'll give it that. But as everything seems like it's about to go downhill, that's when Cordovan comes in, as she was listening over the comm whenever nobody would help RWBY's group out, trying to take down the Leviathan. And here's what I'm going to say about this, because there is something pretty bad here that actually goes on. And I don't know what the reason for this is, but the animation for this moment is a bit Okay, so the FPS drops drastically whenever Cordovan starts to change her hand into the drill, which is a nod to Gurren Lagann. So there you go, there's the Gurren Lagann reference. But yeah, there was a bad drop in animation quality. It was bad. The FPS dropped so low, and I don't know what this is because of. I don't know if it's a budget problem. I don't know if it's because they thought that that would work out. I don't exactly know what the issue there was, but it was a very bad drop in quality. I mean, it just didn't feel right, and it was not good. It was not a good animation moment right there when Cordovan was going to drill into the Leviathan. That was bad. But she drills into the Leviathan, she kills it, and that's when Cordovan states that they are allowed to go to Atlas, that she's going to let them go through, and that they'll take care of the straggling Grimm that are still behind. So, there's that. It shows that Cordovan also stated herself that she is going to protect the people. That's what I liked about the scene whenever she attacks the Leviathan, because it shows development. Rather than her looking down on others, she then thinks about others, rather than her own arrogance and herself on that one. So, I liked that. I liked that she showed development and growth there. At the same time, RWBY got lucky. RWBY and their group got lucky. I mean, she apologized, but at the same time, there's just no consequence there. And that's kind of a problem, because you would think that after the crime they pulled and the treason Weiss did against her own people, you would think that it would be much worse. But apparently not, and they're just going to let it slide and let it go, which is kind of a bit of a problem, but considering that they also help save Argus, I can see it in the sense of, well, it's okay, but it's still not okay, because they did steal an Atlas ship. I mean, they're still in the wrong for stealing a military ship. They literally got to go to Atlas with a pat on the back and no slap on the wrist. They just got away with it. It's surprising the Atlas military doesn't do anything about that when they get to Argus, but anyways. So, moving forward, the one thing I do like is Crow and RWBY's scene here. I like when Crow tells RWBY that she did a good job there, and that he doesn't need to have her going around giving him heart attacks again like that. I like that, and then what I really like, though, is how Crow's about to take a drink, and then he decides not to. And you can see the concerned look on Ruby's face, and then after he doesn't do it, she smiles and she hugs him and tells him that she loves him too. This is a good scene because Crow has been going through this depression for a long time. As a matter of fact, his character has been going through depression as long as we've seen him in the series. And what I really enjoy is that Crow actually decided not to drink this time. And I thought that was cool. It was interesting to see him avoid that this time, especially considering this volume really started to try to throw him into a very terrible depression where he started drinking more. And I'm very glad that he decided not to take a drink this time. Not only that, but he also got praise from someone that he looked up to, that was his hero when he was younger. And I thought that was pretty cool too. Because, when it comes down to it, Maria thought that she was a failure because she ran away after losing her eyes and going into hiding, and because of this, she felt like she was a failure, and it's like when she stated earlier in the volume, in Chapter 7, that if they were to be like her, then they would turn out to be a failure too, because she believed she was one. But I like this from Maria too, because she states to Crow that if only he could have seen her whenever she was his age. So it shows that she thinks well of herself too, and I like that. But when we go forward, everybody's talking about the events of the day and what happened, and they go into the whole, hey look, Ruby, you were awesome, because you jumped into the cannon and you froze a Leviathan. And that's when Ruby is talking about how what she did wasn't that amazing, and then she tries to point out that Oscar was the one who landed the ship whenever it was going to crash. And while she's talking about this, here's the big thing. Oscar then makes a pretty big statement here. And the big statement is that whenever he was about to crash the ship, he didn't just do it by himself, that he had help. And that help actually came from Ozpin. Then we get a flashback of when Oscar's panicking and Ozpin tells Oscar to stay calm, in which he does, and then he lands the ship. And that's the thing. At least Ozpin came back, because ever since they found out the whole backstory, and then Ozpin is upset because they said that they were worse off when they met him, well, that's when he ran away like a kid. He kind of acted like a child there a bit. But for him to come in that instance, that was good for Ozpin. And then you have Yang, who has an issue. And I have an issue with this, because Yang's like, does that mean he's been watching us this whole time? And Oscar says, I don't know. Well, here's the thing. The problem is, if you have Oscar, you have Ozpin. Oscar and Ozpin inhabit the same body now. You will always have Ozpin there when Oscar is there. That's just how it works now, since they share a body. And Ozpin also helped guide Oscar to safely land the ship when it was going through a crash landing. So you gotta at least give him credit on that one, because Ozpin did help save them. So there's that, and if the ship had not survived, they would not be going to Atlas right now. And Oscar brings up a point. At least Ozpin had been watching out for them. That's what that means, and that's true. Ozpin had been looking out for them and their safety. So there's that. But then that's when Crow states that if you haven't seen Atlas in person before, then you don't want to miss this. And that's when we get our very first view of what Atlas looks like. And so it's interesting because Solitas is probably on the bottom, and the kingdom itself and everything else is up on the floating island, is what it looks like. And I have to say, I thought that this design was actually a really cool one. I actually like the design to what Atlas looks like. And it looks very, from what we're seeing here, lively. And this is probably going to be more into futuristic stuff we're going to see within the city itself, considering you look at the tech that Atlas has had in the past. And I have to say, I think that we'll probably see futuristic looks to this city, and that's something that I am excited for. I think that it'll look cool when we actually get to see Solitas, and we actually get to see everything else. So I'm excited for that. But that's not the only thing. Whenever they get into Atlas, they are then greeted by the Atlas military. The ships are all up there, and Weiss even states that she knew that all their ships were called back. And then that's when Crow states that it looks like they're ready for an attack. So it seems that they are prepared for Salem's forces to invade Atlas at some given time, any time for that matter. And that's when they are addressed by the military as they are going into Atlas. And at that point, that's when the chapter cuts off, and we get the song Nevermore. And that song is one that I'll talk about when the soundtrack comes out, so I'll give more of my thoughts on Nevermore then. And that's when we also get the cutscene after the credits. And this is interesting because Emerald starts to walk in and she was going to talk to Mercury, but then you see Mercury looking at something very dramatically. And that's when, while you see they're looking down, Salem's down there. And she's down by one of the pools of Grimm. And this is where it actually gets interesting, because when you see Salem down there by the pool, you see a Grimm pop out, which is a bearing gull. And that's when you see Salem is starting to do something to the bearing gull. And you see the bearing gull actually form wings. This thing has wings now. So as if bearing gulls were not scary enough before, considering they were gorillas, now they are gorillas that can fly. Now, what is this a reference to if you think about it? This is a reference to the Wicked Witch of the West and her flying monkeys. So the bearing gull now that can fly, or the flying bearing gull, is based off the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. So that's actually really cool that they did that. And not only that, but to see that there's an army of them waiting to strike, I find that to be a bit intimidating, because that means that there's another army of Grimm, much similar to Volume 3, but they're flying monkeys, or flying bearing gulls this time. What I like about the scene when the bearing gull actually comes out of the Grimm pool, I like Salem looking at the bearing gull like she is loving towards it, like a mother. It's very interesting. It goes back to the motherly traits that Miles and Carrie said that Salem has, and I like that they show that off here. They show it off as if she is motherly to the bearing gull, to the Grimm. So that's kind of interesting that they actually decided to do that. But here's the big thing. Hazel walks in, and that's when he states, you know, there's an old saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And yeah, I can see why Salem is to this point, and that's because, if you look at it, the antagonists have lost for 2 volumes straight. They lost in Volume 4 with Tyrion versus Crow, and then yet again, they lost at the Battle of Haven in Volume 5. So really, yeah, no, I understand why Salem wants to do things herself at this point, because the antagonists have just constantly lost, and they don't really feel like as big of a threat because they've constantly lost. Now, I'm going to go into that personally in another video. I'm going to talk about it. But yeah, I can understand why Salem feels this way at this point, and that maybe it's just best that she sends out her own army of Grimm to do her own business for her, so that she can directly then use them as the army. And with a Seer Grimm, she has control of them. So she can use a Seer Grimm to control them from a distance, and then they can just do exactly what she needs them to do that way. So really, yeah, I can see this, and it just shows that Salem is starting to throw her own hands in the mix here finally. So this will be interesting to see what they do. So it makes you wonder how things will go down in Atlas in Volume 7. But let's go ahead and get into my overall thoughts of this chapter. First off, I'm going to point this out because this is a problem. So let's go to animation for a minute and talk about that. When Cordovan comes in to attack, that FPS drop is bad. That is not something you would want to have happen, especially at the end of the volume. That was bad. That was a really bad moment. I mean, the animation isn't bad from that point, but whenever Cordovan attacks the Leviathan, that was just a very bad, poorly animated moment. I don't know if that's due to budget. I don't know if that is just an accident on their half. I don't know exactly what happened there, but that was not good. I'm going to say that right now. That did not flow very well, and ooh, I hope that doesn't happen ever again. But other than that, the animation was pretty good otherwise, but that was rough. That was a rough moment there, I think, for the animation. So I think that Indomitable, I'm excited for that song. I think that that'll be a great song, especially considering that that song has some of the lyrics with it being based off what Monty stated in 2012. That is really cool. So I'm excited for that song. I want to talk about Neo and Cinder. I have high hopes for that potential. I just hope they write it well. That's the big thing. I hope that they write the teamwork between Cinder and Neo to be very well. I hope it goes good. And not only that, but talking about their outfits for a minute. Those ladies are on fire. I do actually like their outfits. I think that they look really well. I have to say, for Neo's outfit, it's reminiscent in some ways of Roman, because the hat, the scarf that she has around her neck, that's reminiscent of Roman Torchwick. And I actually do like that a lot. I think that's really cool. And Cinder's new outfit also, I like it too, because it fits her character. And I really do like the black clothing that she's wearing. I think it looks very good for Cinder, as well as she has the little feathers that were actually a part of her dress. They actually put those on this new outfit, so I thought that was cool, which was the original dress that she wore in volumes 1 through 3. So I thought that was cool that they put that on there too. So there's that. And I think that they look great, actually. And I was hoping for a Neo redesign. I was hoping that they would do another outfit change for her. So now that she has a new outfit entirely that she's going to be wearing from now on, I actually am excited for it. I think it'll be really cool. And I'm glad that they used her disguise to help her steal a police ship. That was pretty cool, because that's who Neo is. And the way that they had her character whenever she snapped her fingers, for example, or whenever they had her body motions as well as her facial features really tell how she was feeling, I liked that. They did very good there. And I like Cinder's character as well. I like the whole Destiny bit. I thought that was good. Cinder's character was definitely done well there. So I like what they did with both Neo and Cinder. Now, one thing that I liked, but also at the same time feel has been a missed opportunity, is Summer. They finally show us the full model of Summer, but it feels like they just sidelined her, even though she could have been important to the Silver Eyes plot itself. And yeah, she became important at the final moment in the finale for Ruby to use her Silver Eyes against the Leviathan, but yeah, I think that there could have been a little bit more of a story to tell us about Summer, or something about the Silver Eyes with Summer, something to do with that, but unfortunately we didn't get that, and that's a bummer in my opinion. I really was hoping for something there, and well, we didn't get it. I think I'm kind of also disappointed with the time of this chapter. I was hoping that this chapter would have at least been around 25 to 26 minutes, but if you take out the Genlock ad, you take out the opening and the ending, it's a little over 20 minutes. It's not really that long of a finale, and I really kind of feel like we just didn't get a bigger finale like we should have. Now, when I mean by bigger, I mean just longer in length. I feel like there could have been maybe a little more put in there, and they really left us on a cliffhanger there. So there's that issue that I really have, because I feel like they could have at least thrown in maybe a tad bit more, but that's just my thought. Cordovan herself had a little bit of development, so it went from her looking down upon the people to being someone being there for the people, so that was cool. I mean, they did that for Cordovan, and that was good, and she allowed Team RWBY to go to Atlas, although it really feels like there wasn't a consequence to that. But then again, like I said, they did help defend the city of Argus, so that could have been another thing to it. So I guess that can kind of slide there, really. But overall, this chapter was okay. If I had to give it a rating, it'd be a 7 out of 10, because while it wasn't a bad chapter, it did have a couple of issues. The number one issue being Cordovan trying to attack the Leviathan, and in that animation sequence, it was just so weird. The FPS drop was bad. That just needs to be fixed. That doesn't ever need to happen again. That was bad. And it felt like with the shield barriers for the Leviathan to get to Argus whenever they just destroyed it with the rods just sticking out there projecting the shield, that felt like plot convenience for the Leviathan to get closer. It really did. But the Neo and Cinder team up, I'm most looking forward to that in Volume 7. That, I hope, is written really well. And Cordovan's development really wasn't that bad. There were certain things that I was okay with in this finale, and those were a couple of them. But I think Summer was also a missed opportunity as well. So I thought they could have worked on that a bit better. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share with your friends if you found this informative or useful. Anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today, and remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.